Archives of Prasar Bharati presents the timeless treasure of golden era.
The futuristic office of development alternatives, built in the age-old material, mud. The curious circumstances which make the Katras what they are, and the Sunday Bazaar as prolific as the Horn of Plenty. In the name of the twin scourges of industrialization and progress, which, unfortunately, justify everything, we as a nation have indulged in a great deal of amnesia. We have allowed ourselves to disregard most of our past and to inculcate the attitude that old is retrograde, that indeed indigenous is inferior. Take, for example, the building industry. Despite its environmental unsuitability, its tremendous costs, its depredatory effects, we persist with the cement and concrete culture. That mud architecture, as the original Indian mode, had a substantial rationale behind it is rarely considered. And this, even though a number of individuals and organizations have demonstrated the economic and ecological advantages of the material. One such organization, Development Alternatives, has shown enough faith in mud to construct their large office building out of it.
This organization was set up about 6 years back. What we had identified for ourselves a small niche where we found that there is a need for some kind of non-governmental effort in a more holistic fashion to look into the areas of designing environmental management strategies, designing appropriate technologies, all of which is aimed at what is today now popularly known as sustainable development. Now, for this, we had identified specifically some kind of activities which we had to go into. And in the very broad area of environment, we said we'll have to get into designing of strategies at different kind of scales, different kinds of levels. Now, at the same time, we said, especially since we are based in a country like India, where there is need for development activity and then what kinds of appropriate kind of development activities, we said, let's get in the area of appropriate technologies also. This is how we moved on into the area of technologies and identifying technologies. So one thrust for identifying technologies was looking into what are the kind of basic necessities where one would have to get in.
True, this is not quite the sort of mud building that our ancients would have put up. But isn't that what intelligence is all about? Using your brains to adapt the existing systems to the present situation. That is more or less what Development Alternative has tried to do, and tried to prove that anyone can do with this office of theirs. Without and within, it is truly a beautiful structure. On the outside, its rich color and unconventionally rounded features give it the look of an edifice not of this earth. Martian construction and science fiction stories come to mind. At sight too, the lack of adherence to prevalent office interior trends is marked. Arched entrances, high-domed auditoria, mosaics on the floor. The windows, look like ziggurats. The passages are high, dark and cool. The rainwater outlets are in the shapes of the open mouths of animals and birds. What a change from the austere metal and formica insides of most office buildings. The building, however, is but one manifestation of an organizational philosophy. Development Alternatives has, in other fields as well, tried to look at technologies which are more suitable to Indian conditions.
Some other areas would include cooking energy, where we went into design of wood stoves. We've got a couple of metallic chulas, mud chulas, which you do very good scientific R&D and then try to productionize and market it. In this short period, we've managed to do something. I mean, I wouldn't say we've reached anywhere, but where we have our lacuna, especially in terms of products, is we haven't got into hardcore marketing. We haven't been able to really break through the kind of markets. Maybe the kind of conventional or contemporary, even contemporary marketing strategies that have been adopted for other products or even so-called rural products is not the form that is required to market this kind of stuff. So we're not sure there. Another area we've got into is handlooms. We've started working on a handloom machine. We did pure R&D work without coming anywhere out into the field for about 2.5 years. We've come out with a handloom which is called a Tara loom, which is close to as efficient as a power loom in terms of efficiency. So, and it also can do, it has the versatility to do a range of type of fabrics. That's the area of handloom. Then we have gone into the area of pottery. We are still playing around with handmade paper and a range of products of that sort. So that is broadly the area of appropriate technology.
This viewpoint, as represented by their mud office, seems to show a way to a better future via old, tried and tested roads. It is not progress to abandon tradition in objection to its drawbacks. Instead, it is to find ways past those weaknesses and emphasize the strengths of indigenous modes. Maybe, for the housing problem, the right answer lies in mud. Delhi has, of late, become the proponent of the high-rise, both in buildings and in their rental charges. There is, however, one category of habitation in which neither have the number of stories increased nor has the rent. These are the katras. The katras are truly local phenomena, are sets of tenement buildings strewn over Chandni Chowk, Karol Bagh and Sabzi Mandi areas. Some of them are more than 2 or 3 centuries old. A curious combination of circumstances has resulted in the unusual situation that prevailed in these buildings. During the Second World War, these structures were used to house American soldiers stationed in India. Wartime requirements compelled the British government to freeze the rent in these katras. The new occupants found this to their advantage.
हम दिल्ली में यहाँ तो हैं इस जगह पे 48 साल से हाँ और इससे पहले 10 साल क्लॉथ मार्केट है फतेहपुरी उसमें रहते थे.
We have stayed in this katra for the last 48 years and before that in another one close by for 10 years. That's 58 years in all in Delhi, though we're basically rural people. Some of the rents that were charged here in the old days are still in existence. There are people who have been here since their birth who pay rents of 6 rupees, 7 rupees, 14 rupees. They have been here maybe 40 years or more. In the meantime, rents have gone up by about 10%. Since that time, in many of these buildings, rents have remained static. Landlords have become totally disinterested in their property, and they can't be blamed. Maintenance is therefore the business of the tenant, who, if he could afford it, would not be living here. The Katras have, therefore, fallen into a state of disrepair. Nevertheless, the residents would never like to leave.
यहाँ पे ऐसे है जी, यहाँ पे हर चीज़ खाने पीने को मिल जाती है और कहीं बाहर जाते हैं, जैसे कोई बाहर चले जाते हैं, सही दिल्ली छोड़कर गए.
People who leave here find they don't get what they need, have problems with conveyance or fall sick, and so they come back. I would never leave this place.
तो इसलिए वापस वहाँ से इसी जगह पे आना पड़ता है. यहाँ जगह छोड़ने का मन भी नहीं करता है.
The government has put forward many schemes to get the Katras vacated, but nothing has succeeded. Where else will the inhabitants find quarters at such negligible rates, bang in the middle of one of the busiest commercial areas of the city? Many residents, in fact, have opened up commercial establishment in the Katras, and thus reap the benefits without having to endure the travails of living here. Living at rates that are just what they were half a century ago, you no longer worry about the lack of hygiene, the ramshackle conditions, or the population density. As one Katra resident says, you can get used to anything. The Sunday Bazaar is like the horn of plenty. Anything you want, you can probably get here. For a price, naturally, but even that is usually low and always negotiable. Of course, like the name tells you, it's only on a Sunday that it's open. The bazaar materializes every Sunday morning on a vast tract of otherwise unused land between the walls of the Red Fort and the Ring Road. It wasn't always situated here.
ये 1932 से बाजार लग रहा है. ये वर्ल्ड में सबसे पहले नंबर पे बाजार है और ये इसको यहाँ पर आए हुए इस लाल किले बैक साइड पे.
This bazaar has been around since 1932. It was earlier situated near the Machli market, but has been here behind the Red Fort since 1976.
और उसके बाद यहाँ पे 76 में आया अपना लाल किले बैक साइड पे.
The majority of vendors who set up stalls here are kabadiwalas. They use the bazaar for selling off the assorted junk they have collected in the course of the week. There is always the nagging suspicion that some of the material on sale here is stolen stuff, but that likelihood is low, especially now that there are various unions regulating the sale of items in the bazaar.
ऐसे है कि उस वक्त था कि हम लोग आया करते थे. 8 आने की पर्ची भी थी, फिर 1 रुपए की, फिर 1.25 रुपए की, ऐसे मतलब पर्ची बढ़ती.
We have to get a ticket from the authorities for the space. This used to be for 50 paisa, then a rupee, and gradually it has gone up to 3 rupees and 50 paise. Some of us have been given identity cards by the municipal corporation, which we have to renew every 3 months. The corporation had promised us a lot of facilities, but delivered nothing. On the contrary, they often declare the bazaar closed on a Friday, and on Saturday they are closed. It's only with police help that we manage. The main attractions of the Sunday Bazaar, of course, are the diversity of its offerings and the potential of getting a good bargain. Earlier, it was mainly old, second-hand articles that went up for sale here. But the advantages of doing business from here has brought in sellers of new goods, especially clothing. Now there are more stalls for clothes than for any other category. And the contents also depend on the season. There are other kinds of stalls also in abundance. Footwear is available for all sorts of feet, preference and requirement. Chairs and other furniture are laid out, like galleries in search of an audience. Bicycle tires and spare parts gleam in the sun. Electronic appliances add to the glitter and to the racket. There is virtually nothing you can't pick up here. But the true connoisseur of the market goes there to browse through the spreads of the small junk vendors close to the Red Fort walls. This is where you're likely to find something extraordinary. It's a strange Sunday one spends here, full of strange spectacles. Sometimes, even when the spectacles are not strange, the sight is. Everyone comes here, from the lama to the layman. Tourists get a balcony view from the Red Fort and are rewarded with the amazing Indian levitation trick. That's entertainment. You don't have to buy anything here. Just come to look around and your Sunday will be interestingly spent. Next week, an encounter with the most youthful 91-year-old. A relaxing time in the lazy atmosphere of a colonial clubhouse. A close look at the beauty of underwater life. And a boisterous ride on a quaint contraption.